What's going on, everyone? Let's talk about Jayson Tatum. Now, Jayson Tatum is young. He is a star. He is fantastic. He is one of the best players in the league. He's a player that I would want to build my team around in many ways, right? But in the same breath, he needs to be held to a standard in which stars are. He can't get all the praise and none of the negativity. And as much as I love Jayson Tatum, as much as I love the player that he is, he really lacks that mindset and that belief in him. In many ways, he believes he is less of a player than he truly is. And he really was a non-factor in the finals, which was very unfortunate. It really sucked because I really think Boston had a lot of advantages in this finals from size, athleticism, youth, things along those lines that really could have, if Jayson Tatum delivered and showed up, they could have very well have won this series. Now, I took the Golden State Warriors from day one. I believe that they were going to win in 7. They won in 6. But Jayson Tatum was the factor. He was the player that I thought, okay, he's probably going to have a bad game or two because if you watch throughout the playoffs, he had his inconsistencies, he had his inconsistent moments, but for the most part, he had those big games where he showed up and delivered, and he never really had that in this series. He was effective in many other ways with assists, rebounds, playing defense, things along those lines, but you need your number one guy. And Jayson Tatum is the number one guy. And Jayson Tatum himself has expressed his lack of belief in himself, right? Which is crazy to think because he was mentored by Kobe Bryant and looks up to Kobe, who Kobe had the most killer mentality probably ever. I mean, him and Jordan were 1A and 1B in many ways, but Kobe was like crazily obsessive in so many ways. And so the fact that Jayson Tatum really lacks in that belief is really surprising to me. And Jayson Tatum has expressed in interviews that, he doesn't feel like he's the guy. He doesn't know if he has the talent to be that number one guy, that number one option. And that's why I think Jaylen Brown is that perfect complement to Jayson Tatum, because Jaylen Brown was incredible. But if Jayson Tatum had the mentality and Jaylen Brown could kind of rub off on Jayson Tatum, I really think Jayson Tatum could to take his game to the next level. He could be one of the best scorers, one of the best players in the entire league, but it's a mentality thing. And the problem is you can't teach mentality. As skillful as he is, as young as he is, and he's only going to improve, he's only going to get better. And this was a great lesson for a young Celtics team. I don't fault the Celtics team in any way for not winning the series. I thought the Celtics were the better team, but I just thought that their lack of consistency, the Warriors, pedigree, championship, history, and just the fact that they've been there and they've seen every situation possible. They've gone up against a guy like LeBron who just does everything and can dictate games and control games. Like even Draymond Green expressed how LeBron's mentality is just so much different than anyone else, and that it's not, you can't make a comparison. But I just thought the Celtics had a lot of the intangibles to be successful. I just thought that they would, if the games got close, which we saw, there weren't very many close games in this series, but the one that was, the Celtics floundered and the Golden State Warriors were able to pull ahead and win that series. And I don't want to bash too much on Jayson Tatum because, look, I get it. He's young. He's a great player. But you can't get all the praise. You can't get the superstar label, the star of the face of your team, all of those things, and not get the criticism. It's just what goes with it. And I do think Jayson Tatum is going to learn and take this in stride. And I really wouldn't be surprised if the Boston Celtics are right back in the finals next year. I do think that if the Milwaukee Bucks were healthy and Middleton was actually able to play, I do think the Celtics wouldn't have been in the finals. I think same thing like with the Miami Heat. If injuries weren't a big thing, like Kyle Lowry was basically playing on one leg, you can make an argument that maybe they wouldn't have gotten through that. But nonetheless, can't make excuses. Everybody's banged up, and the Celtics got there. And I do think that they will improve from this experience, and very likely that will translate well, as we saw with a team like Milwaukee in crunch time situations. They used to flounder, but they were able to execute and close out and things like that because it goes with the experience. And I think the Celtics will gain that in the future seasons to come. But it's going to come down to Jayson Tatum. He can't be this guy that is inconsistent. I'm not saying he has to score 40 a game. I'm not saying anything like that. But you can't go and score 20 one game and then 11 the next. You can't, there's no excuse for a guy of his talent level, his skill set, his size to be scoring 11 points regularly in a finals game or even in the playoff series, right? I mean, every superstar has had that bad playoff game, right? I mean, even Kobe had games where he had 11, 12 points, stuff like that. But the next game he'd have 30. It wasn't a regular occurrence like it seems to be with Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum he looks like he's the best player in the league one night, and then the next night he looks like he's just an average role player. And he's gotten better at finding ways to be effective. Like it used to be, if Jayson Tatum was terrible, that was it. He was a liability on the court. But he's learned how to overcome his lack of scoring in game situations. But the fourth quarter, we saw Jaylen Brown take over those games. We saw him live up to the moment. Like, hey, the game's on the line. I'm going to do everything in my power. I'm going to do everything I can to put this team on my back, and let's do it. Jayson Tatum should be doing that. And I'm not saying Jaylen Brown can't do that, and especially if Jaylen Brown's hot, feed the hot hand. But Jaylen Brown needed help. And when they went on that crazy run and they cut it to 7, I believe, or 6, something along those lines, when Jaylen Brown was going off, if he would have just gotten a little help from Jayson Tatum, then I think that it would have been a better game. And I'm not saying that they would have won the game, but it might have been a lot closer, and I think that they would have had the opportunity to. Problem is then we saw the Warriors just kind of honed in on Jaylen Brown and just said, okay, well, nobody else can score except for this guy, so let's just stop him. And they stopped him, and that was it. And then Golden State went on the run to put the game away. Where if you had Jayson Tatum step up and be able to at least deliver in crunch time in the big moments, then you can't do that to Jaylen Brown. So now you have to keep an eye on both of them, and one could take over. The other big issue is the Celtics are too predictable. And it's another big reason why I thought the Warriors were going to win this series. You know what the Celtics are going to do. You're going to have Tatum and Brown essentially the bulk of the offense. The Celtics hope that, a Marcus Smart, Al Horford, somebody along those lines ends up having a big game, a Derek White. If they have a big game, Celtics usually win. If they get the Brown and Tatum contribution, and then if another guy just scores, 15 to 20, they usually win those games, especially when it's Marcus Smart. But when it comes to the Warriors, they're so unpredictable. Yes, Steph is going to get a bunch of shots. They're going to jack up threes. They're going to put a bunch of points on the board. But the type of offensive schemes, it's not a ton of isolation. Like, even in the finals game, you saw Kerr yelling at his players, pass the ball. You're doing too much isolation. You're doing too much one-on-one. And as soon as they did that, they went on a 21-0 run, right? Because before Kerr said that, they were losing. And then Kerr's like, you guys aren't moving the ball enough. Move the ball. And boom, all of a sudden they go on a run. You see all these crazy passes and incredible fluid motion of an offense. And they run scheme after scheme. One night they're running this lineup, this setup. Next night they're running this setup. The next night they're running both of those setups or 3 new setups. It's a constant change. It's different play schemes. The Boston Celtics are too predictable. And so when you don't have a guy like Jayson Tatum who's able to step up, it basically makes the Celtics, a lackluster team. They go from being one of the best teams to just an average team in many ways. Unless somebody else just goes off crazy. If Derek White and Al Horford hit 10 threes like they did in game 1, there's nothing you could do about that. But they're not your reliant players. They are your role players. Jayson Tatum is your star. He's the guy that's supposed to be your night in and night out, 25 a game scorer, the guy that you can count on to close out games, to contribute and cut in the leads. And there was just no effort. And it just seemed like many times he was just kind of in his own head. And we see that a lot with Jayson Tatum. He really just gets in his own head and completely gets taken out of the game. Where you have Jaylen Brown, who, no matter how bad he's playing, he's still going to go at you. He's still going to find a way. He's still going to score. And that's what separates the two of them. And I do think, personally, Jayson Tatum is a better scorer than Jaylen Brown is. I think Jayson Tatum is a better player than Jaylen Brown is, not by much. I don't think that they're that far. I don't think there's like a huge gap. I don't think it's something like a Donovan Mitchell and Kevin Durant level. I think I think they are a lot closer and a lot similar. But I think the difference and the reason Jaylen Brown stands out more is the mentality, is the belief, I am the best player on this court. Whether he is or not, he believes that, and he shows and delivers that every single night. And he gives an effort and this will and drive to score. Just like Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is not a talented scorer, but it's his belief and his drive and his will that he's able to put up 40 points night in and night out. Because he believes, I'm going to get to that basket, I'm going to score, and I don't care how many people you put in front of me, I'm going to figure it out and score. And he does. And that's what we see with Jaylen Brown. Jayson Tatum, we see countless times. He'll have the odd man, and instead of taking him off the dribble or something, he'll just pass it out. You're the best player on the team. You are the best scorer on the team. Box this guy in, elevate over him, put the ball in the hoop. You're more athletic than most of the guys that are guarding you. You're more skilled than most of the guys that are guarding you. You should be that dominant force. If Jaylen Brown's mentality was in Jayson Tatum might be a top 10 to maybe 5 guy in the league. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but we've seen what Jayson Tatum can do. If he just had the mentality of, I'm going to do that every single night and there's nothing you could do to stop me, I think he would be that guy. People were talking about, did Jayson Tatum surpass Kevin Durant? Because Kevin Durant had a terrible game and everyone overreacted to the Kevin Durant thing. But you're not realizing that what the Boston Celtics did was every time Kevin Durant gets the ball, don't worry about anyone else, just stop him. And they had him triple team, quadruple team. Go back and watch the series. Go back and watch the plays. They said, we stop Kevin Durant and we make everyone else beat us. And I don't believe that everyone else can beat us. Kevin Durant is the factor. If Kevin Durant gets going, we're going to lose. If we can stop Kevin Durant, then everyone else is just going to flounder and we're going to win the series. And that's exactly what happened. And that's kind of what happened in this Celtics series, right? Stop Jayson Tatum, get in his head. He's weak-minded. He doesn't believe in himself. If we can just kind of just pester him, make it difficult, and just keep him modest, he's gonna fold. And he did. He folded, and he didn't deliver. He had one good game this series, and they lost in 6. And this is a series that should have went 7. This is a series that the Boston Celtics had so many advantages in. Athleticism, youth, size. From 1 to 5, they had size. And they got out-rebounded this game. They got out-hustled. They got outplayed. And that goes into the experience. That goes into the type of play that the Golden State Warriors do. They knew, we don't want to play a Game 7 because anything can happen in a Game 7. Look what happened to us with LeBron. Right? We were up 3-1. We thought that series was over. We got to a Game 7 and LeBron and Kyrie went off and we ended up losing. We can't risk that because if Tatum and Brown go off, we have Tatum. Tatum is a complete non-factor right now. We need to keep that. We cannot let him get hot and then go into a Game 7 because if that happens, he might wake up and we're in trouble. And that's what I think ended up happening. That's what I think we saw. But as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Again, I don't want to ream too much into Jayson Tatum, but it needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed. He's a star in this league. He needs to be held accountable. And he can't get all the praise and none of the backlash when he doesn't show up. And he didn't show up. This team is very young, very skilled. I still believe they have the best starting 5 in the league, 1 through 5. I just think that, everyone knows their role. Everyone is perfect in their role. I just think that this team very well and very likely could be right back to where they need to be. What this series was a team of cohesiveness, a team of chemistry, a team that has been there a dozen times, and a team that is young, that doesn't have the chemistry, that hasn't been there, that doesn't have that same level of connectability, that is too stale. You know what we're going to do night in and night out. And I think that was the issue. But Love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? How do you feel about it? What did you think about Jayson Tatum's no-show? You can't tell me he doesn't deserve some criticism. You can't tell me, and I get it. I've seen the comments from people. I've seen things. Well, he's only 24 years old. Like, yes, but he is the leader of that team that night in and night out looked like he was the best player. Night in and night out, he had inconsistencies. Like, this was a pattern for him. This was something that he sent the Kobe text and all this stuff and talked about how, I got you. We're going to get there. We're going to do this. And, he's a star and he needs to be held accountable. I don't think that he deserves a ton of backlash. I don't think, I think some people are taking it to the extreme. He's trash. He's this. I don't believe that at all. He is one of the top players in the league. Any team would take him in a heartbeat and build around. He's the type of player that you can build a future contender with. He's young enough. He's skilled enough. Like, he's that guy. He just needs to get that mentality, and he needs to realize how good he is. But love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.